that engaging Africa at this time, it is a new game that is calling for new rules of engagement, and therefore it is time to re-strategize and treat the Africans fairly, treat the Africans respectfully, and treat the Africans as equal partners.
Why is Niger's uranium being monitored by the world's two leading rivals, the US and China? Economic benefits aside, each nation has its reasons for focusing on Niger. China seeks uranium deals with Niger and has already put forth numerous proposals. Conversely, the US has more complex interests. To those familiar with international politics, America's motives might seem troubling.
Is the disrespect of the Africans. That's where the problem begins. If we cannot accept, if the United States cannot accept Africans as equal partners, if the United States, for example, let's look at this particular meeting, this particular summit. There was no defined agenda. There has never been defined agendas whenever they meet with African countries as individual countries. It's always the United States setting the agenda, the United States setting the policies, and the United States telling the Africans about the policies. That is no way to have any meaningful engagement.
It appears China is monitoring Niger for future business opportunities, while the US is seemingly engaged in surveillance activities. But why? Let's find out. With the world's energy markets on edge, the focus has turned once again to Africa's vast oil reserves. Recent satellite imagery and intelligence reports reveal heightened interest from the US and China. But why are these superpowers so invested in the region's oil, especially as political instability rises? The stakes in this global chess game are higher than ever, and the strategies employed by these nations could shape the future of international energy dynamics. But what is the importance of African resources, especially uranium, in front of global powers? As the world transitions towards cleaner energy sources, nuclear power has emerged as a vital component in reducing carbon emissions and meeting global energy demands. Central to this shift is Africa, a continent holding approximately 18% of the world's uranium resources. Africa's uranium reserves are pivotal for the global nuclear industry. The continent provides a substantial portion of the world's uranium supply, a trend expected to increase as demand for nuclear energy grows. Countries worldwide are looking to diversify their energy portfolios, and uranium from Africa plays a crucial role in this strategy. As nuclear power becomes more prominent in efforts to combat climate change, Africa's contribution to the global uranium supply chain will be indispensable. But that's one thing. The strategic importance of African uranium has not gone unnoticed, raising significant geopolitical concerns. The region's instability, combined with the ambitions of countries like Iran, has intensified the focus on securing and governing uranium mining and exploration in Africa. Ensuring that these resources are managed responsibly and safely is paramount. The international community is particularly concerned about the potential for uranium to fall into the wrong hands, which could lead to nuclear proliferation and heightened regional tensions. While some are concerned, some are using this as an excuse to exploit Africa, and we know who that is. Let's come to the mining part. African countries such as Namibia, Niger, and South Africa are at the forefront of uranium exploration and mining. The continent's favorable geology makes it an attractive destination for these activities. Numerous international mining companies are investing heavily in African uranium projects, seeking to tap into its vast reserves. These exploration and mining efforts are crucial in meeting the growing global demand for uranium, but they also come with significant responsibilities. The uranium industry holds the potential to significantly boost Africa's economies. It can generate substantial revenue, create jobs, and contribute to the development of local infrastructure. With this, the world's reliance on African uranium is expected to grow, with projections indicating that the continent could supply around 20–25% of the global uranium shortly. This dependence underscores the need for responsible and sustainable management of these resources. African nations, together with international stakeholders, must develop robust frameworks to govern uranium mining. This includes setting stringent environmental standards and ensuring transparent and fair practices in the industry. Uranium mining in Africa poses several environmental and social challenges. The industry must navigate issues such as radioactive waste disposal, water pollution, and the broader impact on local communities. Addressing these challenges requires strong governance and regulation. African governments, in partnership with international organizations, need to implement policies that protect the environment and uphold the rights and health of local populations. Sustainable practices in uranium mining are not only ethical imperatives but also critical to maintaining the industry's social license to operate. Recently, the focus has been on Niger uranium. So, why is Niger being monitored? Here's a reminder to please like and share the video and subscribe to our channel to watch more videos on Black culture, history, civilization, and identity. Let's continue now. Niger has emerged as a significant player in the global uranium market, providing about 5% of the world's mining output from Africa's highest-grade uranium ores. Niger's uranium production is notable, with the country producing 2248 tons of uranium TU in 2021. Cumulatively, Niger has produced approximately 150,000 TU up to the end of 2019. This substantial output underscores the country's significant role in the global uranium supply chain. The high-grade uranium ores found in Niger are among the richest in Africa, making the country a critical source of this valuable resource. According to the International Atomic Energy Agency (IAEA), Niger's reasonably assured resources (RAR) of uranium are estimated at 256,520 TU, up to a price of $130 per kilogram of uranium, primarily accessible through open-pit mining. Additionally, inferred resources stand at 53,600 TU at up to 130 km, with 98% of these resources also accessible by open pit. These reserves highlight Niger's substantial untapped potential in uranium mining, positioning it as a key player in future global supply. Niger plays a crucial role in supplying uranium to the European Union (EU). In 2022, Niger was the EU's second-largest supplier, providing around 2,975 TU of natural uranium, accounting for approximately 25.4% of the EU's total uranium imports. This significant contribution highlights Niger's strategic importance in maintaining the EU's nuclear energy infrastructure. Globally, Niger ranked as the seventh-largest supplier of uranium in 2021, with an output of 311,100 TU, equivalent to 5% of the world's uranium supplies. The Nigerian government, recognizing the strategic importance of its uranium resources, has shown strong support for the industry. There are ambitious plans to increase production to 10,500 TU per year shortly. Such expansion efforts aim to solidify Niger's position as a leading uranium producer on the global stage. Companies like Areva and Paladin Energy dominate uranium mining in Niger. These operations involve extensive logistical efforts, with uranium concentrates being transported by truck to Parakou in Benin, and then by rail to Cotonou port for export. This infrastructure network is vital for moving large quantities of uranium efficiently and securely to international markets. Niger is also committed to the safe and secure use of its uranium resources. As a party to the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty (NPT), Niger has a comprehensive safeguards agreement in force. This commitment ensures that Niger's uranium is used for peaceful purposes and adheres to international standards for non-proliferation and security. This gives enough reason to why the nations like China and US are monitoring Niger uranium. But of course, each nation has its own interests. So let's delve into each one by one. Starting with the star of the show, the US. What are US interests in Niger's uranium?
What really is behind the failure of effective engagement with Africa is the disrespect of the Africans.
Niger is a major producer of uranium, which is critical for the global nuclear industry and naval propulsion. The US has a strategic interest in ensuring a stable and reliable supply of uranium from Niger. This ensures the continuous operation of nuclear power plants and the maintenance of nuclear-powered naval vessels, which are vital for national security and energy needs. Niger is a key location for US counterterrorism operations in the Sahel region. The US operates a major drone base in Niger that supports efforts to combat terrorism and maintain regional stability. But we also know that some nations use counterterrorism as a reason to exploit. Niger is the best place to do it. Anyways, the U.S. sees significant economic opportunities in Niger's uranium, oil, and lithium resources. American companies have expressed interest in investing in these sectors, which could lead to increased economic ties and mutual benefits. These investments are seen as a way to boost the American presence in the region while supporting Niger's economic development. Another critical aspect of this interest lies in preventing the diversion of uranium to unsanctioned nuclear programs, particularly those of countries like Iran, which could potentially develop nuclear weapons. This effort has led to significant tensions between the U.S. and the Nigerian government, raising questions about national sovereignty and international oversight. The potential for Niger to sell uranium to countries like Iran is a major concern for the U.S., given the risks associated with nuclear weapons proliferation. The U.S. aims to ensure that Niger's uranium is used strictly for peaceful purposes, in line with international non-proliferation treaties and agreements. This proactive stance is part of a broader strategy to maintain global security and prevent the escalation of nuclear threats. However, this raises complex issues regarding Niger's sovereignty. The U.S. monitoring and influencing how Niger manages its uranium resources can be seen as an infringement on the country's right to self-determination. Sovereignty implies that Niger should have the autonomy to decide how to utilize its natural resources without external interference, as long as it adheres to international laws and agreements. The U.S. employs advanced satellite surveillance and maintains a military presence in the region to monitor Niger's uranium activities closely. This oversight is intended to prevent any unauthorized sale or transfer of uranium that could contribute to nuclear weapons development. Such measures are part of the U.S.'s commitment to global non-proliferation efforts and ensuring that uranium is used responsibly. While these actions are framed as necessary for global security, they also suggest a degree of control over Niger's resource management. This is perceived as an attack on Niger's sovereignty, as it implies that Niger cannot fully exercise its rights over its uranium resources without U.S. oversight. The balance between global security concerns and national sovereignty is delicate and often contentious. The U.S.'s approach to Niger's uranium resources reflects a broader dynamic, where powerful nations monitor and sometimes influence the resource management policies of less powerful countries. This dynamic is not unique to Niger or uranium, but is a common feature in global politics where strategic resources are involved. Experts argue that such practices undermine the sovereignty of resource-rich nations, treating them more as subjects of international policy than as independent states. Proponents, on the other hand, emphasize the necessity of such measures to prevent the misuse of critical resources in ways that could destabilize global security. Apart from this, the U.S. has raised concerns about the environmental and social impacts of uranium mining in Niger. Issues such as radioactive waste disposal, water pollution, and the health and safety of local communities are significant. The U.S. advocates for strong governance and regulatory frameworks to mitigate these risks and ensure sustainable mining practices. When saying this, one assumes the U.S. itself must be doing great with its uranium, right? When a nation is monitoring another nation's uranium, just to make sure it does not become an environmental hazard, that means in its backyard everything is good. But that's not the case. Here is the reality. The U.S. government actively promoted uranium mining on Native American lands, particularly on the Navajo Nation, from the mid-20th century onwards. This promotion was often conducted without proper safeguards or plans for cleanup, leading to widespread environmental contamination and severe health issues for local communities. Radioactive waste and water pollution became prevalent, affecting the health and safety of the Navajo people. The legacy of these practices includes high rates of cancer, kidney disease, and other serious health conditions linked to uranium exposure. In Colorado and Utah, the U.S. Department of Energy's uranium leasing program has resulted in significant environmental degradation. The Dolores and San Miguel River watersheds have been contaminated with uranium tailings, leading to deteriorated water quality and ecological harm. The department failed to adequately analyze the environmental impacts of expanding this program, including potential threats to endangered fish species. This oversight led to a court ruling halting the program, highlighting the need for rigorous environmental assessments before proceeding with such projects. Historically, uranium mining and milling in the U.S. were conducted under standards that are now considered grossly inadequate. Practices such as improper disposal of radioactive waste and failure to manage acid mine drainage led to severe water quality issues and harm to both aquatic and terrestrial ecosystems. Despite regulatory improvements in recent years, the long-term effectiveness of modern waste management practices remains uncertain. There is a persistent risk of major failures, which could result in widespread contamination and long-lasting environmental damage. The U.S. government has struggled to adequately address the legacy of past uranium mining and milling. Many contaminated sites continue to pose significant environmental and health risks due to incomplete or insufficient cleanup efforts. Tailings disposal sites, in particular, represent potential sources of contamination that could persist for thousands of years. The long-term risks associated with these sites are not fully defined, complicating efforts to protect human health and the environment. But with all this, the U.S. has the right to monitor another nation's resources. According to U.S. officials, this is justified. Anyways, now you know what U.S. interests are, and it's up to you to decide if there is any win-win approach. Now let's talk about China's approach. China's involvement in Niger's uranium mining sector and broader economic investments signify a significant partnership aimed at bolstering both countries' economic interests and strategic goals. China has recently signed a deal with Niger to reopen a previously abandoned uranium mining site in the Arlit region. This project, which was halted 9 years ago due to unfavorable international uranium prices, is being revived amidst more favorable market conditions. The resumption of exploration and mining activities underscores China's strategic interest in securing uranium resources to meet its growing energy needs and support its expanding nuclear industry. China has established partnerships with various companies in Niger, including the National Uranium Company of China (CNUC), which plays a crucial role in the uranium mining project. The Chinese ambassador to Niger, Zhang Feng, has emphasized China's commitment to its investments in Niger, highlighting the role of these investments in fostering the country's development and economic growth. As part of its economic strategy in Niger, China is constructing an industrial park that spans multiple sectors, including agro-food processing, manufacturing, mining, and real estate. This development is expected to stimulate economic diversification and industrialization in Niger, creating opportunities for employment and economic growth across different sectors. China is also spearheading the development of a nearly 2,000-kilometer oil pipeline in Niger. This infrastructure project aims to enhance Niger's crude oil production capabilities and facilitate international trade access through a terminal located on Benin's coast. The pipeline project represents a significant investment in Niger's energy infrastructure, aiming to improve efficiency in oil transportation and bolster the country's economic resilience. China's investments in Niger have been substantial, with total foreign direct investment (FDI) reaching $2.68 billion as of 2020. These investments span various sectors, including energy, infrastructure, mining, and industrial development, reflecting China's strategic interest in enhancing bilateral economic cooperation and supporting Niger's socio-economic development goals. So, while U.S. plans are more about self-interest, China, on the other hand, is rapidly expanding its influence in Africa through investments and strategic partnerships. As the world's largest importer of oil, China's energy security is heavily dependent on the stability and accessibility of African uranium reserves. Unlike the U.S., China's approach is more economic and infrastructural, marked by significant investments in the region's energy sector. In addition to infrastructure, China is leveraging its technological advancements in satellite monitoring to keep a close eye on uranium reserves. This data helps China assess risks and make informed decisions regarding its investments. But what is the guarantee that China won't also interfere? China's foreign policy emphasizes non-interference in the internal affairs of other nations, which includes respecting the sovereignty and autonomy of partner countries like Niger. This principle is rooted in China's approach to international relations, promoting mutual benefit and cooperation rather than intervention or imposition of political agendas. China's non-interference policy ensures that its engagements with Niger, including investments in sectors like uranium mining and infrastructure development, are conducted within the framework of mutual respect and collaboration. This approach is designed to foster a win-win relationship where both countries benefit economically and strategically without compromising Niger's sovereignty. In the context of Niger, China's commitments to projects such as uranium mining and the construction of an industrial park and oil pipeline are based on agreements and partnerships that respect Niger's sovereignty. China aims to support Niger's economic development goals through infrastructure and investment, adhering to local laws and regulations while promoting sustainable development practices. So, while both powers are monitoring Niger, who is better to work with? When considering which global power, the United States or China, might be preferable to work within the context of Niger's uranium resources and broader economic development, several factors come into play. Let's do an analysis based on past experiences and current dynamics. China has demonstrated a robust commitment to investing in Niger's infrastructure and natural resources, including uranium mining. The Chinese approach often focuses on large-scale projects like industrial parks and infrastructure development, aimed at enhancing local capacity and economic diversification. China's foreign policy emphasizes non-interference in the internal affairs of other countries, including Niger. This policy aligns with Niger's sovereignty, ensuring that Chinese engagements are based on mutual benefit and respect for local governance structures. The United States has historical ties with Niger, particularly in security cooperation and counterterrorism efforts. While these ties are important for regional stability, U.S. engagements in economic development, including uranium mining, have been less pronounced compared to China's investments. Who do you think America should work with? Or whose monitoring strategy is good? Who would you pick for Niger? Let us know in the comments section. Do you find the U.S. approach as a win-win approach? Do you want to watch more videos like this one? If so, subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon next to it. We have decided to bring videos on something nobody talks about: the Black culture, civilization, history, and evidence about how glorious Blacks have been. Thanks for watching, and until the next video, stay tuned.